A very good morning and welcome back to Khanty-Mansiysk, the last week of the Biathlon World Cup season, and bitterly cold conditions yesterday, a little bit warmer today, but the physio tape is out once again, and everyone looking forward to seeing. This is the last sprint of the year, Mike. Martin Fourcade has pretty much dominated things, although he's only won 2 sprints. He's been on very good form.
Six out of 9 he's Martin Fourcade been on the podium, so his chances again today are pretty high, and maybe for another victory. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see whether he's still as fresh as he was in Sochi last week. Great to see Emil Hegler-Svensson back again and racing today. We haven't seen him for the last 2 World Cups. He missed Oslo, he missed Sochi. He said it was a small cold. I suspect it was a little bit more than that. Birnbacher, of course, has had success here before, and Terje Boe got himself the individual world title here back in 2011, and maybe today is going to be his day. Well, what a sight here in Khanty-Mansiysk, the last race, last sprint of the season. 2 more races to go for the men and the women, a pursuit and a mass start. And Svensson, how does he look to you, Mike? He's obviously fairly relaxed. He's got a lot of attitude, this man. But it's a real shame that he missed 2 rounds of the World Cup, because essentially he handed the crystal globe to Martin Fourcade on a plate.
It was going to be a great fight, because of course Svensson had all the majority of successes at the World Championships, and that really did hurt Martin Fourcade. He wanted to get the top point of the podiums. He had to, well, accept second place there, and I thought we'd have a fight right down to Sunday's race, but yet unfortunately it happens. You get a cold, a lot of travelling and a lot of racing. That Hjelland walking out onto the track.
Yeah, some evil-looking glasses on Egil Hjelland. What a great job he's done this year, responsible for the Norwegian women. Anderson up in the coaching team for the men. He's had a good season as well. Krasimir Anev is going to be the first away, who's had an awful lot of racing this year. He was at the European Championships, unlike many of the top biathletes, and quite a few asking us on the email, why do the big names not go to the Europeans? We'll explain that later on. Anev was there. He didn't shoot brilliantly, but ever since then he's been back to his normal form with the rifle, so hopefully he can do something special today. But I think really the individual is his race, not the sprint. It's too short, too sharp, and he just doesn't have the leg speed.
Isn't it strange? You said his shooting dropped off, and that's because he was back home in Bulgaria for the European champs.
Lau Bailey from USA, 31-year-old from Lake Placid. His best in the sprints this season, 7th in Antolz, was not a bad race, but he just needs to make sure he hits the last 5 in the stand. If he does so, he's certainly capable of top 5, and if you can get top 5 occasionally, you will find yourself on the podium. And then Freddie Lindström from Sweden. He's certainly amongst my top 5 of men who deserves a win this season, but hasn't had one. And he's done pretty well. 6th place in the overall World Cup standings at the moment. Next year, he could be one challenging for the overall.
Well, that's interesting. Last year, at exactly this time, he was ranked 15th. So, as an athlete, and a young athlete, only 23-year-old, that's exactly the kind of statistics you want at the end of your racing season.
And you know what, Mike? If he has a good race today, he could well go into the top 4 of the World Cup standings. So I think that will be his aim. Andrei Moravec, one of the first-time winners this year. Legelic, of course, for Canada, getting a win in Östersund. Moravec having a very good win. The mass start in Oslo. What a race it was, and holding off Martin Fourcade on the last lap there. That showed what sort of strength he's got, not just in the body, but in the mind as well.
Do you know, I really feel good about Moravec today, and I really hope again the Czech Republic can place themselves on the podium as yesterday, and of course the victory.
Dominik Landertinger for Austria. The Austrians will be hoping that he can add to his 2 wins that he's had in his career. The last of those was way back in 2010, but it was here in Khanty-Mansiysk, a mass start. So I think that proves that he likes the tracks, and he certainly started faster than anyone else so far.
And Landertinger, talking about, I've been looking at results from last year. Landertinger was 37th at this time last year. Now he's 8th in the ranking. Great year.
Emil Hegler Svensson, despite missing so much of the World Cup, he still lies in second place. That's fantastic. 6 races he's missed, and he's still second in the overall. We're going to find out how badly affected he is with the cold that he's had. I think the buff is just trying to stop the throat getting any worse.
You know, often when you have an unforced rest, you come back, clearly he hasn't raced in Sochi, and that's a lot of energy output from all the other athletes at altitude, the hassle with the travelling they had. He's got to be in good form, and one of the favourites today. Yeah,
if he keeps going at that pace, it's going to start hurting at about halfway up the first climb. But you can't stop Svensson. What about Clement Bauer? He's had a bad season with the rifle, and that's why he's placed 35th in the rankings. But he's incredibly quick, and if he can just clear 10 targets, he's a potential winner today.
And you know, you see it clearing the 10 targets in the relay in Sochi. Amazingly, with those 3 spare rounds, Clement Bauer did do that on Sunday.
Birnbach, yeah, one of the 8 winners we've had in the sprint so far this year. Birnbacher winning in Hogfilson early on in the season. The majority, Mike, 7 of the 9 sprints have been won with a perfect shoot this year. No one's missed more than 1 and gone on to win a race. 8 out of the 9 wins have come with the athlete hitting the last 5 targets.
That is such a psychological boost, isn't it? Especially today, to just go straight out of the range and avoid that penalty loop.
Well, here's another sprint winner from the season, Anton Shipulin, who did the double in Antolz in Italy, and if he got a win here today, I think the roof, if there was a roof on the stadium, it would come off. It's an open stadium, of course. This is one of the arenas, Mike, where the spectators actually very close to the targets.
You do feel the noise. You can hear it so loud in your right ear because it does a wrap around the whole stadium.
But just with Sochi, the noise here is what you might call incessant. It just never stops once the race is, once all the starters are underway. Whereas if you go to Ruhpolding, the noise essentially comes as a reaction to the targets being hit or missed.
I'm not sure which is worst. I think when you're shooting and you hear this sequences of shouting in reaction to your shooting, subliminally it gets to you, especially shot 4 and 5.
So it's easier for the athletes if the noise is just constant. It's easier for the commentators if it's not. Now, Terje Bø, what a time he had in 2011. Of course, he got the bronze medal in the sprint event. He got the gold medal in the individual. And that really did shock the big names in the Norwegian team, didn't it? Bjørndal and Svensson just couldn't believe that this young man was showing so much form at such a young age. He's missed a lot of this season because of a virus he picked up in the summer. I think he's done amazingly well. 18th in the World Cup standings, despite the fact that he's missed 4 complete rounds of the World Cup.
I can't believe that Terje Bø is only 24. I was thinking he must be 27. He seems like he's been around forever. And Dirk Semler, well, he has been around a long time. This is 17 years on the World Cup tour. What a man.
Yeah, and he enjoys the tracks here. Certainly his form has been on the up since Nova Mesto, and he's put in some good performances at the Europeans, again in Oslo, and he got the bronze medal here in the sprint in 2010. Now let's have a look at the 1.8 kilometre split. Morovitz is the first through, 2 seconds inside Lau Bailey. Long stride from Morovitz. I guess one of the problems the Czechs have is they don't have the financial support, certainly, but they don't have the technical support that Russia and Norway and Sweden and France have.
You need money, don't you, to bring extra staff so far, and on flights, travelling, accommodating them, and giving them the expertise they need to prepare the skis and the waxes to actually go on the basis of the skis. All so very expensive. Landetinger, second place at this moment. It will stand a long time. Svensson just coming up now to the 1.5 kilometre. He's running only about, I think, about 1 second off Morovitz, maybe closing, well, it's 0.3 now, closing down slightly. Good indication that Morovitz is getting his pacing right. The track from here, it drops around to the right. It's fairly flat, then would descend quite quickly before that horrible climb back up into the stadium.
Number 16. Rastaguyevs for Latvia, the first Latvian to get underway. In fact, Latvia only have one in this group. Of course, a lot of teams starting to think about Olympic quotas, Mike, and the position of the nation at the end of this season determines how many can go to the Olympics next year.
How many you can take, of course, but all the teams in the top 20 can enter 4. If you're outside the top 20, at the Olympics, in fact, you can enter more, but your national Olympic committee can restrict you. And for Great Britain, sadly, that's only one athlete, and there's 2 today, of course, Jackson and Kevin Kane in the race today. So for the Olympic Games, it will be a tough selection.
Well, where's your money on that, of course?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. Kevin Kane's been shooting so well and performing better than Jacko in the last couple of months. Jacko, for many years, has been the best in Britain, so another summer really can make an awful lot of difference in terms of shooting and preparation, getting all your skills up to a high standard. Yeah,
Andy, thanks for all your emails throughout the season. You want to know exactly what the British team can do to improve. We'll deal with that shortly, once we've seen Anef go through his first shoot. Remember, just 2 shoots today and only 10 rounds to hit the 10 targets. No spares like in the relay. Now, Anef taking a second and a half longer for each target than Simoneda will do of Austria. But he's got 5, keeps himself in the running. Doubly important today because, of course, we have a pursuit to follow.
That was good control of Anef, and he had to work there. He didn't rush the time in between each shot. Normally he shoots a little faster, so deliberate control today.
Well, having seen that good shooting from Anef, I guess that's the first clue as to what the Brits need to do to improve. If they're never going to be quite as quick as the top skiers, they have to make sure of the targets. And there's absolutely no reason why a skiing nation, one of the main nations, should have an advantage with a rifle, because we have the facilities, we have the backup to do as much shooting as they require. So, firstly, hit the targets. Then what do you do to make them quicker?
I agree, the targets are vital. Jacko's riding around the 75% hit rate, and Kevin a little higher. You have to be up at 87 if you're not one of the fastest skiers. You have to be up at 90%. So that's the easiest way to improve, is get the shooting standards up by 10%. And it doesn't take a lot of energy. It's just skill and time on the shooting range.
Well, Lindstrom goes clear. Lau Bailey has gone clear. And Moravec goes clear. The conditions are pretty easy. 25-1 Moravec at the start of today. That's surprising, considering he's already had a win in a mass start. Let's see where he lies. 8:49, the quickest time so far. Moravec is going to be there or thereabouts, just outside. And that's a brilliant start for the Czech. Now, Landertinger, 1 miss. And I think today is going to be like 7 of the previous sprints this season. It's going to require a perfect score, unless your name is Martin Fourcade, who's perhaps, we don't know what form Svensson's on. We'll have to wait and see. But Fourcade really looks to be the only man who can take time out on that last lap.
Krug, his coach, the German coach for the Austrians, looked so disappointed in Landertinger. He barely misses his prone, Patrick. He's a 90% hit rate, man. Today he must be thinking about it.
Well, here we go with the world #1, and Martin Fourcade. Just watch how quickly he starts. Always goes out of the starting blocks like a hare, chasing the time of Svensson. He's got the advantage of going second after